Hello and welcome to You Talking to Me. The European Commission and the European Parliament want to fight tax evasion. The Commission proposed 2 weeks ago new rules on tax agreements, and the Parliament set up a special committee on tax rulings. What should we expect from this? That's what we are going to discuss today with our guest Sven Giegold. He's member of the European Parliament from the Greens and also member of the Special Committee on Tax Rulings. Hello, Mr. Giegold.
Hello.
We're also joined by Matjaž Trost from RTV Slovenia. Hi, Matjaž.
Hi.
And by Artyom Skonov from Latvia's Radio.
Hello.
Both member of Euranet Plus and joined on the phone by Claudia Knopke from AMS.
Hello from
Hello,
Germany.
Claudia.
Hi.
Mr. Giegold, let's first briefly talk about what the Commission proposed 2 weeks ago, an automatic exchange of information on tax rulings. Commissioner Moscovici talked about a revolution, about a new world to start. Do you share this expectation?
Well, at the moment, French socialists might call very quickly a revolution, and perhaps that's showing the level of ambition. But stop joking. Seriously, information exchange on tax rulings are required by law since 1977. It's nothing new. The only difference is it's automatic. What the Commission didn't propose is minimum tax rates, a real, true European method of calculating where transnational corporations have to pay how much of the tax. And they didn't propose full tax transparency. And the Commission is still debating, the Council is debating, even after the LuxLeaks scandals. Measures remain very careful indeed.
And indeed, the Commission is not questioning the system itself of tax rulings. Let's see what Commissioner Moscovici said when he was our guest 2 weeks ago.
Tax ruling is, Mr. Bettel is probably right about that. It's not illegal, and it doesn't have to be condemned. And we didn't decide to forbid such tax rulings. That's not the point. They can be useful for a company who decides to invest here or there. It's a matter of attractiveness. Yes, but the lack of information creates loopholes and also create inequalities or situations where there can be abuses. And today, with our new regulation, you'll have the obligation to have an exchange of information between administration each 3 months. The Commission will be informed, and if this is not respected, there can be further infringements.
You were talking about ambitions. How ambitious is this commission to fight tax evasion? What's your impression?
Well, he really made the right point, the question of infringements. The European law was violated because member states didn't exchange the information on tax rulings. They were already required to exchange it, and now the Commission should not make new proposals alone, but should follow up the countries because of infringement of existing EU law. And Mr. Moscovici has refused to take that action so far, and the guardian of the treaty has to make sure that existing binding EU legislation is followed. And he is basically not doing his job if he doesn't start an infringement procedure on the basis of existing law.
Why didn't he do that? What's your opinion on that?
Because governments of most member states did not respect the law. So it's not only a problem of Luxembourg or some other very smaller countries like the Netherlands and Ireland, which have used that a lot, but also Germany, France didn't insist that their laws are basically followed by, and therefore many finance ministers everywhere in Europe are very much at unease with this, because it would expose that basically the cheating of taxes or the dumping of taxes was accepted by the finance ministers more or less everywhere in Europe.
Mm-hmm. Some are warning on going against tax rulings, such as the Luxembourgish MEP Frank Engel, who is also a member of the special committee and who was our guest also. And let's see what he said.
We can do whatever we want in Europe, but we have to ask ourselves one single question, and I leave morality out of it so far. That is, do we still want major companies on this continent with their headquarters or not? If we don't, We merely have to abolish all these practices, and they will simply go on their way. And those in Singapore, those in Delaware, those in Nevada, and those elsewhere will be more than grateful to receive them. The same will be true in China.
So are we chasing away multinationals by going after tax rulings, Mr. Giegold?
Well, first of all, I agree, tax rulings are not by themselves bad. The question is whether they replace tax law. So basically, what is normal for all small companies, they have to abide by the existing tax law. That must also be the case for big companies. But if there are unclarities, you can go to the tax administration and ask for a ruling to be sure when you invest what you get. That is not the problem. Therefore, I don't disagree at that point with Mr. Moscovici and Mr. Engel. But what's factually wrong is you cannot simply shift headquarters of multinational companies, because this would trigger itself very large tax payments. So if all the multinationals in Germany would leave, and we have quite a number of those, they had to pay amounts of money for shifting the headquarter that would be not possible for them. So the European states don't have to do tax dumping in order to keep their multinationals. And there, Mr. Engel, I think he's more speaking as someone who's from Luxembourg than as a true European.
So far, and you mentioned it already, not many member states were really interested in getting information from countries like Luxembourg. Artyoms.
Yes, indeed. And Germany was also one of the countries that was not really interested in or trying to oppose such tax havens, if we may use this word, like Luxembourg. And because one of the explanations could be that they knew that this is one of the ways for companies to stay in Europe. Would you agree?
Perhaps. It is very hard to judge, but I think that all studies on location of companies show that tax is not the main reason why you locate. You locate where the markets are, you locate where you have qualified labor, you locate where your costs of production are moderate, and that tax is only one of the pull factors. And therefore, I think we should not be blackmailed. We should ensure fair competition, because the small and medium-sized companies, they have no choice. But they are competing with transnational companies, basically doing tax dumping and tax dodging. And that is basically destroying the basis of fair competition in Europe.
What about publishing data on tax rulings? That was also a request from some MEPs in the committee. And OECD General Secretary, for example, said this is going to slow down the procedure because many countries are opposed to. And then he said by naming and blaming, we are going to lose the battle.
Well, honestly, the publication of tax rulings is useful, but that's not the heart of the matter. The heart of the matter is whether you publish on a country-by-country basis how much profits, turnover, and taxes paid you have by country. If you publish that, it becomes transparent where you earned your money and where you paid your taxes and declared your profits. This would make sure that a company gets bad reputation when it is doing what some seem to threaten, to sell in Europe but to pay your taxes elsewhere. Therefore, this country-by-country publication is key. And unfortunately, the Commission has not yet proposed it, and the German government is opposing this country-by-country decisions, and this is such a pity because we could decide it in Europe with majority voting, because it's formally not a tax measure but a transparency measure. So therefore there's no good reason to being against, and this is protecting of the interests of privileged large corporations.
Let's have a look at the special committee on tax rulings of the parliament. Matthias, the start was rather slow.
I would agree. It was a rather rocky start, which doesn't prejudge the outcome. But I would really wonder how committed is this special committee, given the fact that we see that it's being led by the Grand Coalition politicians, which have, during this start of the committee, shown quite some. They had some issues regarding the possible outcome.
Well, I agree. There are different members and they have different opinions on these matters. And it was clear that, unfortunately, we didn't get a full inquiry committee, although an inquiry committee has more rights than a special committee. Also, of course, there was the fear that this would erode even more the legitimacy of Mr. Juncker. And one of the big test cases for the committee will be an invitation of Mr. Juncker and Mr. Dijsselbloem. Mr. Dijsselbloem, Social Democrat, leading the Eurogroup, has done very little to fight tax evasion, although it would help to stabilize Greece and other countries on their income side. And Mr. Juncker's history is well known, so and they could prove and have to prove in front of the committee that they really will change.
And Claudia Knopke from AMS, she's got a question just on that.
Yes, and you just mentioned Jean-Claude Juncker as one of the center figures in the LuxLeaks thing. And on which points this committee will be active exactly? So you said you don't have the full rights, but what can you do?
Well, yesterday we had a meeting of the coordinators, and we agreed that basically we will ask for a long list of documents from the Council and the Commission. We will then, on the basis of these documents, make further inquiries. We also decided to send delegations to all the key countries in this affair, so to the UK, to Ireland, to Switzerland, to Luxembourg, to the Netherlands, and so on, in order to speak to the people responsible in the respective countries. And we also decided, in principle, to invite a certain number of actors. On a green proposal, we also have decided that we will build a relationship with the Senate committee in the United States, which has been investigating tax dodging by large multinationals for more than 10 years. And we hope to learn from them and cooperate with the United States, because in the end, we are all in the same situation. We are basically blackmailed by transnational corporations, and we all have to defend the public goods we finance with our taxes.
We're almost at the end. What do you expect in concrete from this special committee?
I hope that it will build so much public pressure that the Commission will finally come up with tough measures, and also the Council will feel the heat to decide tough measures against tax dodging in Europe.
You were mentioning the invitation of Jean-Claude Juncker. The Grand Coalition did, want to avoid this for Juncker, this experience. Do you really think there is a move within these groups?
I don't know yet. On this matter, there was not a real discussion nor a decision. Therefore, I don't know yet how my colleagues will decide. But I think it will look rather stupid if they would oppose it. So let's see where we end and see each other again.
Okay, thank you very much for your visit in our studio. Thank you, Mr. Giegold. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, Artyoms. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you all, and see you soon on You Talking to Me.